Okay, here we go. So we're going to cover the August monthly webinar together today. My name is Megan Weldon, Rapido Product Manager. I know it says Judith Frankel there, but I'll be sharing the webinar with you today. Okay, our webinar today is going to follow the usual format, discussing topics of the Rapido community, our September release, and then frequently asked questions. So first topic within our Rapido community, welcome to University of Exeter, joining the UK pod, going live with Rapido. Further additions to the Rapido community come with an announcement on August 16th with Ohio Link, a consortia of 117 libraries and 88 institutions, a consortia of academic libraries in Ohio, choosing Alma and Primo as their shared solution. In addition to that, they are going to be going live with Rapido, Leganto, and Library Mobile. A big addition to the Rapido community in our near future. Other topics related to the Rapido community was the iSpy conference. Earlier this month, myself and my colleague Caitlin O'Malley were able to attend the iSpy conference in California and connect with a lot of our colleagues who work in libraries that use Rapido on the West Coast or their consortial representatives. The iSpy conference was the first conference I ever attended in my library career, and so it was a really great conference to be at again and reconnect with, and I appreciate all the work that the conference planning committee put together or did to put together that conference for us and for inviting us to join them. Other connections within the Rapido community, I had the pleasure and privilege to connect with our library folks at Florida Gulf Coast University. I got to tour their library and their campus and their special collections archives and work with them for the day to personalize their Rapido experience and further their success with Rapido at their library. Further opportunities for our colleagues to connect with Rapido libraries. There's a couple happening next month in September. One being for the UK community in London at the Clairvaux office on September 20th. There's a link there, and it's been shared, I believe, to the listserv to connect with you all who can and would like to attend next month. Additionally, the Igloo Conference that's happening next month. Colleagues will be there to connect with you all and hear about your experiences, and we'll continue working with you. So please reach out to us if you're wanting to schedule an in-person meeting so that we can make sure that happens, or just come up and say hi so that we can all connect at the conference. Okay, moving into items for our September release. Though I don't have a lot of content to show you, it has been a full release with a lot of work leading up to it. So from conversations we've had with libraries, we understand there are duplicate records in the discovery experience, and this has been a very layered project that our team has been working on. Some of this impact of our work should already be visible in your discovery experience, but more of it will be visible throughout September and these first few weeks here with a re-indexing project. One of aspect of this work has been to remove duplication from the Rapido discovery layer. So we already removed locally held records from the GTI display to reduce the number of duplications of a record during discovery. This work that was done also needed to be applied for records coming from network zones for libraries who are using a network zone within their consortia. That work will be visible with the September release, and you'll start to see the culmination of this work after the first few weeks here of our indexing project completing. An additional development related to the duplication in discovery is a new checkbox that you'll see, and we recommend this selection, though you can make the decision that's works best for your library. Under configuration, discovery, display configuration, and then configure views, you'll see a new checkbox labeled do not retrieve local records from CDI. We recommend this selection. Um, it makes a lot of sense for libraries who may be using a blended scope or when you don't want to return results for your local resources when you're searching the central index. So that's an option for you to tailor your discovery experience. You'll find that now with the September release in the configurations. So those are the two big thematic items for our September release relating to duplications in discovery. We also have some big bug fixes that I want to acknowledge, as I know they're very important and have an impact at your libraries as well. So thinking about our themes of Rapido, of connect, personalize, and optimize, there are quite a few bugs related to your connection opportunities. So a few of those are, in some cases, the rotas were displayed in the pod facet with internal ID rather than the rota name. This is now resolved. Locate fails on the borrowing side with the lender not having the resource available in the portfolio coverage has been resolved. The partner listed on the lending request right pane view was mistakenly labeled as the lending library rather than the borrowing library. So now that label is fixed so that can be clearer in your troubleshooting and using of the system. Your Salesforce cases should be updated too. So if you see your Salesforce case number there, you will also get updated through your case. Additional item on this is that in some cases, when a borrower scanned in an item, the partner was canceled. This has been fixed too. Okay. Sorry, I just want to check. Did I skip a slide? Yes, I did. So here we are. Further bugs that have been fixed under kind of the personalized, so you tailoring Rapido to your experience here. So the any option was previously in the drop-down list for the user groups available within the borrower self-registration page. We removed the any option as it would not provide a relevant or realistic results. So it will now require you to select a user group, and thus then the functionality should work for you. So we didn't want to leave you with an option in the drop-down menu that didn't yield the correct result for you. Further issue that was resolved was the requested media was missing from the right pane from the record customization. A couple Salesforce cases related to that, and those were fixed. This next item has quite a few Salesforce cases connected to it. The quick print dialog window for resource sharing shipping slip letter was not displayed as expected, and this was fixed. With the September release fixes, you can now configure the files cannot be found message when a digital file is removed by the job. So this is now resolved. When an item was requested for personal delivery, but the library staff marked it as reading room only, the request was still being sent as personal delivery, but staff at the libraries needed to be sent to the reading room to support that functionality. Reading rooms are often used for library use only, so this was fixed and that Salesforce case is attached there. Okay. Further bugs that were resolved with September here. Digital conference proceeding requests were not correctly sent to the partner. This was now resolved. Another item after using the ship digitally action, rather than refreshing the list, now you'll see a green dot that indicates the list should be refreshed. So that way then after you've done the ship digitally action, you're not just sitting there hitting refresh, waiting for it to take place. If there's actually a refresh pending, you'll see that green dot there for you to know to make that selection and make that click of that refresh icon and have it perform the action that you're actually expecting of that. Okay, a couple Salesforce cases attached here. Previously, when submitting an article request from a journal, there were some incorrect record being created. That was fixed and you'll see that update in your Salesforce case if that was an issue reported at your library. In some cases, requests for journals or e-journals were not properly processed. We have a fix for that. When sending files using the fill locally action, the upload file page did not open correctly in some instances, and this has now been fixed. And then lastly, the print slip button or print slip did not open even when the successful message was displayed, and the slip was sent by email. So this was fixed for those, and those connected Salesforce cases were updated. So that's what I have for you as far as the September release. Really, the duplication discovery was our project for the September release, and then a lot of these various bug fixes to improve your experience and success with Rapido. So thinking or looking at our next section that we usually go to in our webinar, frequently asked questions. In my meetings with libraries recently, I've been hearing questions about what recommendations do we have for sets or mediation rules? What are my colleagues doing, etc. I would remind you that you have the listserv, and that's a great way to connect with your colleagues too to see how they're using Rapido. That's a place there. But happy also to take your questions, and let's address these two in particular today. So just as a reminder, for making and using sets, this can be done by folks with the fulfillment administrator's role, the service manager role, or the fulfillment service operator role. When you create a new set, you're selecting the relevant facets that you want as connected with that set there and saving them. You're going to name the set, and the name convention should be whatever makes sense to you and your workflows at your library at that time. You can select the group under which the set should be included, new, in process, or closed. When I work with libraries, I think about this as if I haven't touched it, done any work on that request yet, it's new. If it's been touched by staff, it would be, I think to file it under in process. So that's how I sort things, but everybody can use sets to organize things how they want with their workflows. Private sets, that's a selection, private yes or no. If you make it private, it's only going to be under your managed sets menu, it's only going to be visible to you. Whereas if you make it public, it will also be in the list available to your other colleagues. Thinking about that, if you make a set public, you have the option to permanently active for all users or not. If you do make that selection, it means it's automatically going to be turned on for your colleagues, which can be helpful, say, if you're making a set that you think is relevant for a workflow that all folks perform or multiple people perform, or perhaps would at least perform in your absence. This selection makes sense for those that are they're sets for workflows that you want multiple people involved in. Okay, so that's just kind of context for making your sets, and then thinking about how that comes into play actually in your Rapido. Environment, there are a couple here that I think lend well or complement one another and are sets that I'm seeing more and more libraries utilize. And one, I think, well, these are both relating to your physical lending workflows, and one of them relates to identifying requests that need to be printed. So you haven't yet printed the pull slips to take care of these requests. And the other one is keeping track of things that you have printed the pull slip on, and perhaps they're being pulled, or you like to make sure that these have all been taken care of and empty by the end of the day, or relevant timeline interval for your processing. So as you go down the various parameters of these sets, they're very much identical until you get to the place of request reported. Request reported, really what that means, has the slip been printed yet, yes or no? So for no, that is your awaiting printing, awaiting stack searching, awaiting pull slip printing, whatever you would want to name that. While request reported yes means the slips have been printed, so in stack searching, or pending pooling, or in pooling, or however kind of naming, whatever naming makes sense to you for organizing your work. These sets might also not be relevant at all at your library. It's just a common one that I'm seeing at many of the libraries that I'm working with. So there's that pair of sets. And thinking about the similar kind of process, but taking that to your digital requests, at least the requests that are starting from your physical inventory, but you are digitizing for your end users. Again, these two sets have the same sort of parameters down the line, um, except for really at their request reported. So the one on the left here is identifying articles and book chapters that need slips printed for pooling and digitization, while the other is slips printed for the items needing digitization, items awaiting scanning. So in addition to the request reported, has it been printed yet, yes or no? My organization, I would think to organize the one here on the left in the new category. These requests haven't been worked on yet, while as the one on the right, I put that in the in process group, how I like to organize things, because these things have been started, but they're not yet completed. So those are a couple ideas and common sets that I'm seeing at various libraries. Now, taking your question into mediation rules, just thinking about mediation rules in general, you have the actions available to you to just stop a request, or a mediation rule can be implemented to automatically cancel requests for you. That's a functionality that came out in mediation rules in the last few months here. Or you can have mediation rule action be that of fill locally. We'll get a little bit more into what that actually means. Here on the right-hand side, you see the parameters list that are available to you in your mediation rule. So a lot of different pieces that you can combine within a mediation rule to make it work as you would like to. And then another piece of your mediation rule, when you go to configure one, you'll see the output parameter, and that's the label that you want applied by the rule. So thinking about your mediation rules, I think there are quite a few use cases, but I think it's helpful to think about why does this request need to be slowed down? Am I slowing it down because traditionally I've reviewed each of these requests? Um, or can I rely on Rapido to automate as much as possible and only mediate when I have a specific purpose and specific need to work on this request to intervene um, with my staff expertise? And then another piece of it is thinking about, do all of the requests like this need to be slowed down, or is there a way with the various parameters within that mediation rule to fine tune it so that I'm only addressing the requests of concern? And then I think another part to think about with your mediation rules is what value can I get from this label? So your labels are available to are a field that are available to you in your analytics reports. And so thinking about that, think the labels can then give you further information at another time. So maybe you have a couple mediation rules in place. I would think about maybe having those different mediation rules be connected with a different label, because then you can review uh, meet requests with that specific label to help you make decisions in the future about the continuation or modification or just overall workflow practices associated with those labels. Some libraries or certain scenarios really do need mediation, and I want to show you a couple of the examples that I'm seeing most commonly used lately by libraries. So one of those is that fill locally action in that bottom right. You see the action of fill locally. So this workflow is being used when a library is saying that, or backing up, mediation rule works on your borrowing requests, identifies it as a self-owned item and available at the time, meaning you could fill it from your collection and not have it go out to your lending partners. And instead of having that request stop in your borrowing request itself and then manually select create lending request, or have to touch it in borrowing and then follow it into lending, or um, work on it in borrowing where you don't have print pull slips or anything like that. This mediation rule, what it does, it just automatically assigns your library as the lender so you can manage that request within your usual lending workflows. You have your normal pull slips available to you, you have your normal download electronic resource workflow available to you. And if for whatever reason you can't fill the request at the time, you can reject it as you would any other lending request to bump it on to the next lender. Another mediation rule that I'm seeing some libraries use is a mediate on a partner. Most commonly, I'm seeing this used when a library has another system that they've connected to their Rapido environment and they want to review those requests before that other system might get used. So in this example, the library has to find the partner and the physical format, and then they're labeling it so that they know why this request has been stopped. A lot of libraries at this time are then using enrich from GTI, such as the label indicates here, to see if by changing the ISBN, can they actually get it to match and get filled by one of their established partners in Rapido before going into their secondary system. Another mediation rule example that I'm seeing some libraries use are mediating based on pod. And that this is most commonly used when libraries are considering if they want to pursue international shipping for an item. So they'll mediate on that pod that would connect them with partners um, that would require international shipping so that they can make that distinction of, okay, at this time, is there any other way they can get it? Do they want to purchase it or do they want to pursue this item from that partner? So that's an example that I'm hearing about at the libraries. So that's what I have for our webinar today. Thank you. I'm going to navigate back to seeing the chat so I can work through your questions today. Right. I'll give everyone a couple of moments to put anything into the chat if there is any questions. I'd love to hear what questions you have today. And if you don't have anything at the moment, you're also welcome to email me and we can continue our conversation that way as well. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions come in. I don't want to take up more of your time if you don't have any. We'll hang out for another moment before I close the webinar though. Okay, right. Thank you everyone. I'm going to end the webinar for our August monthly update. Please reach out to me if you want to connect further. Okay, thank you.